All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the meeting of the Town of Yucca Valley. It's Tuesday, April 6th. It's 6:01. We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennison.
Here.
Rhodes.
Here.
Lombardo. Schooler.
Here.
Mayor Abel.
Here. We'll have our Pledge of Allegiance followed by our invocation. Pastor Mark, are you here or online? Not seeing him right now. If he joins us, we'll have an invocation. Please rise and join us. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we can be seated. We don't see Pastor Mark from the First Christian Church of Yucca Valley. Is he here? Oh, thank you. Would you please come and lead us in our invocation? Appreciate it.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, God, thank you. You bless us in so many ways. You give us so many freedoms. We thank you for this town, for its leaders. We pray today that you would guide us in wisdom. You would guide the decisions that are made, that what is best for our town would take place. We pray for humility. We pray for unity. We pray for strength. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we have a few presentations and introductions and recognitions. We're going to start off with our fantastic superintendent for the National Park Service, Mr. David Smith. Welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Members of the council, thank you so much for having me here. I'm honored to see you all. It's great to see your faces. I've missed you all and the people of the Morongo Basin for the last year, so it's great to be out and about. It has been an exciting time over the last year at the park, as you might be able to attest. If we could turn back the hands of time about a year ago, we initiated that first closure when the president and the governor asked us to slow things down for a while. And it was tough because we closed the park. We closed it, all the camping, because we thought that was dangerous. We thought toilets and camping were very, very dangerous at the time. We've learned a lot since then. And then we closed the gates, and we thought, well, we're going to let the people in Joshua Tree and Yucca Valley recreate in their park. It's their backyard. We didn't recognize that everyone in Southern California would also be recreating in their backyard as well. So, dealing with these waves of people that were coming in and tramping through people's yards was a learning experience for the park over the last year. But as soon as we were able to open up in May, we did. And we had some of the busiest summers I've ever seen at Joshua Tree, which was striking because we know that about 20 to 30% of our visitors during the summer come from Europe. The German visitors and the French visitors that are coming. They have the large Winnebagos that they've rented. They weren't here, but everyone from Southern California was once again. And it was very interesting, the dynamics changed. A lot of people were looking for local staycations. You had people from San Diego coming up for overnight, or for Long Beach or Santa Barbara. So it was a new change, and it provided a new safety element as well. Because hiking in Joshua Tree in July, as you might be able to attest, is not the best idea. So we had a number of safety concerns. We had a few deaths that occurred in the park during that time as well. So dealing with the new dynamics and demographics of the folks that were coming into the park as a result of the pandemic was illuminating. We had some significant revenue shortfalls over the last year. As you might guess, March, April, and May are the busiest times of the year. That's where the park makes most of its fee revenue that pays for our staff and pays for most of the infrastructure inside the park. So it's been a bit of a challenge. Our Nature Association has done a great job of raising extra money to help us out, and our friends groups have done it as well. And then with the passage of the Great American Outdoor Act, which passed during the end of the Trump administration, and Congress signed off on it, we have the hope of some significant money coming into national parks throughout the United States, but I really just care about Joshua Tree right now. And our biggest project would be of concern for the folks of Yucca Valley. because our number one project is the Black Rock Rehabilitation Project. As you might know, that was the former Jellystone campground that was acquired by the park about 40 years ago. It was not designed for pull-through trailers. It was not designed for 40-foot RVs. It didn't have any group campsites for Boy Scouts. And most of the infrastructure there is really, really decayed. It also wasn't designed for sewage as well. So it's full of a lot of septic systems. So we're hoping that our project will be looked at favorably by Washington. Our local representatives from Congress, both in the Coachella Valley and up here in the Morongo Basin, have both signed on to letters of support to Congress to let them know that this project is very, very important. And we're really hoping to leverage it to be able to tap into the ongoing sewage project in Yucca Valley as well, so we can get those nitrates and other things out of the groundwater and using the benefits of the sewage processing plant in town. So that is our big project that we're going to be working on in the park in the coming years. The West Entrance project will begin at the end of this fiscal year. So in October and November, we hope to have 4 entrance stations in the town of Joshua Tree instead of 1. That will make our friends who live in Monument Manor and in the community of Joshua Tree much happier, as the traffic does not build up, preventing them from leaving their houses on busy weekends like we had over Easter. So that's another big one that's going on right now. We're also looking at a new visitor center complex down at Cottonwood. We've been saving up our fee revenue over the last 4 years in order to build a structure down there, and that's online for about 4 years from now. Here in the Morongo Basin, we've been working with the community of 29 Palms and Project Phoenix to move our visitor center operation at the Oasis to downtown 29 Palms. We needed more space. We couldn't build the space at the Oasis, and so you're going to be seeing us move into that structure in about 1 year as soon as the project is completed, with a lot of our museum collection there as well. So there's a lot of things going on in the park. The thing that affects, I think, our community here in Yucca most are just the numbers. The numbers continue to be higher than they've ever been before. When I was a little boy and came out here to camp with my folks, it was about $500,000 a year. When I was in high school and I came out here to ditch school and climb on the rocks, it was about a million people a year. And that held true for about 20 years until about 1913, until 2013, 2014, when we saw that 20% jump. And it happened 20% jump every year for the next 5 years. So now we're getting about 3 million visitors a year to the park, and that doesn't seem to be decreasing at all. Even during the time of COVID, if we were not shut down during those 2.5 months, we would have exceeded 3.5 million visitors in the park. So I think the businesses in Yucca and the Morongo Basin can continue to expect significant growth in visitation to the park. There might be a carrying capacity that's going to be dictated by the number of people that are coming into the park, and the experience will degrade, and the park may have to look for other solutions, and whether that is a reservation system or buses or something like that. I don't know the solution. I don't like any of those. I'd like the number to naturally be able to moderate itself. We're spending a lot of time on social media trying to encourage people to come visit Black Rock, go up to Covington Flats, come in through Cottonwood, come on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Don't come on a Saturday at noon. It's going to be a disaster. As I can attest to that because I spend a lot of my Saturdays at noon directing traffic. So I think from a business standpoint and from the community, that's something you can look forward for many years to come. I don't see that going down at all based on the current trends and the confirmation I'm getting from the people that are coming to the park right now. So the state of the park is healthy right now for all that are here. We seem to be adjusting well. We're very fiscally conservative in how we spend the money that Congress appropriates to us, and we depend heavily on volunteers. A lot of people in Joshua Tree and in Yucca Valley make up our search and rescue team inside the park. They're now serving as members of our preventative search and rescue team. And so these are the folks that go out on weekends and hang out on trails. And if they saw Curtis walking up in heels or something and he didn't have any water, they might say, "Hey, Curtis, you might want to choose to put on some different shoes, and you might want to drink some more water before you go up there and don't kill yourself." So that is another opportunity that's really helped us to leverage the local community. So I'm really proud of the folks that live in this area and how they've supported the park. And I'm proud of how we're managing it right now. my priest would tell me pride is a sin, so I shouldn't say that. But I'm very happy then that we are doing so well managing our public land. So if you have any questions about the park or any of the projects that are going on, I'm happy to take them.
Very good. I'll open it to the public. If anyone in the public here in the room or online would like to ask a question of our Superintendent Smith, we'd give you that opportunity right now.
Don't be shy. You're all very shy up there.
Superintendent, have you seen an increase also in the annual passes being purchased as well as the number of daily visitations?
Yeah, thank heaven we have, because revenue numbers are up for this month. It's helping us. We lost about $3 million during the pandemic because of closures, and 60% of our budget relies, for employees, relies on that money. So it was a really challenging year trying to figure out how we were going to pay the bills. But that fee revenue has gone up, and it has gone up because of the annual pass. If any of you that are over 62, I would recommend getting the cheap senior pass. That's always a good idea. But I buy the annual pass every year because it gets me into every national park around the United States.
And it used to be that if you purchased it in a particular park, more of the money went to that particular park? Is that
Yes,
still true?
Merle, before you leave for your trip to Yosemite this year, why don't you stop by the entrance station or stop by Yucca Valley up here at Black Rock and get your pass? I'd appreciate it.
I got my lifetime one. Yeah.
I didn't think you were 62. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I've been there. That was like on my birthday I went. I was so excited to get that pass. Also, that's the only exciting thing about 62 is that getting the annual pass. With the entrances, will you have a automated gate where you can use your annual pass to be able to get
So
in?
our current design that we have for Joshua Tree will be 2 lanes with 2 entrance stations in each lane. So you'll have kind of piggybacks, and then a pass-through lane and a bike lane. So in the pass-through lane, there'll be a ranger that'll be standing there. You'll have about 100 yards or so of additional lane space. And our idea is that traffic will be moving fast enough that we can get all the pass holders like yourself into that lane and into the park. What we're doing right now, as our sheriff's department and CHP can probably attest to, when it gets backed up so long, we have 1 or 2 miles of traffic trying to get into the park. It makes it impossible for safety vehicles or rescue vehicles to go and attend to the people that live on Park Boulevard. So we will flush the gate. We'll just open it up and just let people in. And so then you have 500 cars coming in at the exact same time, swamping every parking lot inside the park, which isn't good for the park, and it's not good for your experience. So that steady flow of people coming in, there's enough attrition that I'm hoping that'll solve some of our parking issues inside the park. We have a number of parking lot projects coming on. They're not very sexy to talk about, but we do see increasing parking at a number of the sites inside the park as well.
Great. Any other council member questions? Yeah.
Sure, yeah, David, thank you for the report, awesome. Black Rock Canyon Campground, what's the configuration and capacity going to be? What's going to be different?
Yeah, so we've got about 100 spaces right now at Black Rock, and we're going to add a number. The big changes are going to be group sites. So these will be new group sites that will have a capacity of anywhere from 30 to 50 persons per site. So if we add in an additional 4 or 5 group sites, what happens now typically is, Boy Scouts come in, they take 10 or 20 sites, and then, people can't camp there. So you're going to have the 5 new group sites, which will increase capacity by about 300 people per night. Looking at dividing the horse camp a little bit more, so individual horse groups can come in and can reserve a site in that area. And then we'll have walk-in sites that are going to be as well as part of it. So about a dozen new walk-in sites. So you will park your car and you will hike in, 50 yards to get to that location. So the numbers doesn't look really good. We're looking at maybe about 15 or 20 new sites, but the capacity is going to be significantly larger.
Thank you, and that project, is it going to have to shut down the whole campground?
Yeah, probably we're pretty good at these things. We'll probably, there's some flood issues, as you might know from Black Rock Canyon, that affects the people that live in that area of Yucca Valley, and part of this project is to deal with the flood issues as well. That's going to take some re-engineering to get the water into the current flood channels that are there and into drainages and not going into people's backyards. So that's going to probably necessitate some closure, but we'll try to do as much as possible during the summer months so that during the, the peak times, oddly enough, Christmas is a peak time at Joshua Tree. And they love coming up to Yucca because that portion of the park is the one that gets snow. And so people that want a snow experience that can't, take the time to go up to Big Bear, they come up to Black Rock.
Thank you.
Hey, David. Thank you for your great presentation. You do so much for the community and the park. I have a question about Black Rock. The entry, the kiosk there, will there be a new kiosk where people go through, or will
Yeah.
they still pull up to the old building first? How would that work?
So there will be a kiosk to get in, and that will actually help to limit the numbers a little bit, because as Black Rock gets over capacity, the way it is right now. So there will be a kiosk that'll be installed that'll kind of be your entryway into Black Rock. Where the California Riding and Hiking Trail is off to the left, there'll be a new parking lot to deal with folks there. To the right, another parking lot for day use with for picnic tables set up as well, and shade structures over there. We're going to be doing some work over at the fire station. We're going to expand the fire station. We also actually have to put in some dorm units as well. Our employees are having a really hard time finding seasonal housing. The Airbnb market is wiping out our staff's ability to find housing during the 6-month season. So we're looking at 8 new, like a bunkhouse unit that we're going to put in up at Black Rock as well.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, comment and a question, but first I want to thank you for working recently in the last few years with the equestrians in the area. So the horse camp is one of the last remaining real equestrian areas next to a park, like that, and it's definitely a treasure for the area. And so that's a big part, to maintain that and make sure that those groups can enjoy the park also, and in the same way that we do. The other is I've seen some of the, this may have been corrected, but at the kiosk going into from the 29 Palms area, I went up there with some groups. We were all riding and going to the park, and then we found out, I have a pass, so for me it was fairly simple, but for others in the group, they were asking exact change. And it seemed kind of disruptive too. I could see how that would slow down entrances, and looking for newer technologies when the new entrances are developed, if that was part of the whole plan for that throughput.
I figured Rick would have a question just because everyone else did, and he didn't want to feel left out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, during COVID, we stopped taking cash because we thought, dollars were dangerous. And so we switched over to credit cards because credit cards are much less dangerous. It's fun how we keep on learning more and more from science about these things. So now, and honestly, just about everyone has a credit card. There's been very little problem with that. And for folks that don't, we'll take the cash. But 99.9% of the people have been using credit cards, so that's solved that problem right now.
Excellent.
And now you can get your pass ahead of time. We have a new app coming out, and you can purchase it from rec.gov before you go into the park, so that speeds things along. All of the bookstores are selling passes now. I think the next step is to get businesses like hotels a certain amount of passes that they can sell or give away to their clients to speed it up as well. We're trying to think how to get that market out there. I'm a forester by trade. I'm not a good businessman. I need someone who has good business sense like you to help me with that. So if you have any other ideas,
Creative.
you just let me know.
I appreciate it very much, David.
And when you said you were riding, were you up like on a motorcycle or a bike or?
It was a fundraiser, a charity fundraiser on motorcycles, and so they decided to do the loop through 29 down Cottonwood.
Excellent.
And so it was to watch the flowers bloom. Actually, it's been 2 years, because last year we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, not a lot of flowers this year, Rick. Don't. You might want to look at a picture book.
Okay. Was it COVID that did it?
No, it was the lack of rain. Man.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We always look forward to your presentations.
No, I appreciate all that you do. I know it is a thankless job running a community sometimes, and it's great to have people that make the sacrifice. So thank you very much for doing what you do.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
We had a last-minute question. Yes.
Yes, I have a clarifying question. You said there are going to be 4 entrances into the park. Can you clarify exactly where those entrances are located?
Would
Yeah,
you repeat that? Would you repeat the
Yeah,
question?
no problem. She said I had said that there are going to be 4 entrances coming to the park, and it was a little bit confusing the way I put that. So the entrance that's in Joshua Tree, so the village of Joshua Tree, the one that's there, we call it West Entrance, we're actually going to put 4 entrance stations there. Right now, there's 1, and so we'll have 4 times the capacity. But the other ones that we have are, Cottonwood and then North Entrance.
Is there also, I have another question, is there any future plans to have an entrance in the Desert Hot Springs area? Are you guys partnering with them?
Are there any plans to have an entrance in the Desert Hot Springs area? Well, I'm glad you brought that up. MDLT has been working, so the Mojave Desert Land Trust has been working with the Coachella Valley Mountain Conservancy to develop the Long Canyon Trail. And so that begins up in Yucca Valley at the top of Long Canyon and on some MDLT property, and it goes down all the way down to just the outskirts of Desert Hot Springs. So that trail, technically it's a route because we aren't going to do a lot of trail development. That will be opening up in a matter of months. But, that's not kind of the end. That's a long trail. So for most of our visitors, that's way beyond what they're interested in. It's totally fun. I've hiked down from Yucca down all the way down to the bottom, and you drop down about 3,000 feet, 3,500 feet, and you start up in Pinyon Juniper, and then you go all the way down to Desert Scrub. So it's super fun, but it's not for the light of heart. It's more of an adventure. So
All right. Thank
thank
you
you very
again.
much. Have a
Appreciate
great
it.
evening and a great spring.
Thank you very much. All right, next we have a proclamation for the National Donate Life Month, the National Donate Life Month. And I'd like to welcome Linda Tyre, the ambassador for coordinator for One Legacy. Linda, thank you for joining us online. Can you hear us?
There you go. Hi. Well,
Hi, Linda. Would you tell us a little bit about your organization, you being the ambassador?
yes, I'd love to. Well, first of all, good evening, Mayor Abel, Mayor Pro Tem Jim Schooler, Council members Rick Dennison, Jeff Drodes, and is Robert Lombardo here? No?
No, he's absent tonight. Thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to also welcome the residents in attendance who are here listening to me do this explanation about One Legacy Donate Life. My name is Linda Tyre, and I'm honored to be in attendance as a resident of Lake Arrowhead. I am blessed to enjoy our seasonal beauty of the mountains within a 2-hour drive. I'm right there in Joshua Tree National Park and enjoying the serenity and beauty of your area. So as an ambassador volunteer, I sincerely appreciate the proclamation that you are going to present. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to my son, who is the reason I am here today. His name is Matthew, and in his youth, my son excelled in baseball. He was a switch hitter, a risk taker, and when he could run like the wind. In his adult years, the paths he chose were strewn with obstacles and wrong choices, always looking for that place over the rainbow where the bluebirds fly. But his dreams of happiness were elusive. He was a young man with the heart of gold, a dimpled smile that could coax you to say yes, and an empathy for those less fortunate. In 2017, just days before Thanksgiving, at the age of 33, my son's tragic death brought light into the darkness of 5 lives through the donation of his heart, liver, lungs, kidneys, and pancreas. My family's decision to donate his organs was what he would have wanted to help others. His dreams are now transplanted into lives of the donor recipients, allowing them to experience the happiness of more time. A month later in December, I received a letter from my son's liver transplant recipient. Her condition was critical. Her husband wrote that because of my son's gift, she was able to celebrate her best Christmas birthday ever with her family and her daughter. On January 1st, 2020, my son was chosen as one of the 44 Fluorograph honorees whose pictures graced the Donate Life Rose Parade float titled Light in the Darkness. Until my son's passing, sadly, I had little knowledge of the importance of organ, eye, and tissue transplantation. As of February 2021, the number of patients waiting for organ transplants is over 107,000. And every 9 minutes, another person is added to the list. Through your ongoing support in proclaiming April as DMV Donate Life California Month, I believe the people living in the town of Yucca Valley will realize that they can truly make a difference to help others by just adding that little pink dot to their driver's license at any DMV office or by registering online. Volunteering my time as a One Legacy ambassador honors my son's precious gift of life and time to others. Thank you so much for honoring us today with your proclamation.
Thank you for sharing your story and for turning a tragedy into a victory. Just very admirable, and thank you for sharing the legacy that your son left for others. We would like to present this, whereas organ, tissue, marrow, blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need, where more than 21,000 individuals nationwide are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and a daily average of 17 patients die while waiting for a much-needed organ. And whereas, on average, one tissue donor saves more than 33,000 lives in one tissue organ donor saved more than 33,000 lives in 2020, whereas California residents can sign up to Donate Life California Registry when applying and renewing their driver's license or ID cards here in California at the Department of Motor Vehicles. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor of the town of Yucca Valley and the town council that the month of April 2021 be designated as National Donate Life Month, and encourages all Californians to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card, presented on this 6th day of April in 2021. So thank you. We'll make sure this is sent to you and your organization, and thank you for sharing that important box to check off whenever you're doing your driver's license or ID card. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had just a short side note, if I may.
Yes, you may.
It's spring, and it's typically baseball season, and I don't know if many of you realize that the legendary Mickey Mantle, baseball player, was a liver transplant recipient. And during his pleas, organ donations across the United States of America virtually increased by the hundreds and thousands because of Mantle's humility in saying that his life could not have been possible without this organ donation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We're going to move on with our next proclamation, which is the Child Abuse Prevention Month. And we have Jeanette Zito, staff analysis with the Children's Network, with us online. Thank you for joining us. I hope I said your name correctly.
Yes, you did.
Oh, wonderful.
Perfectly, thank you.
Share a little bit about what you're doing and what your organization's about.
Okay, thank you so much, Mayor Merle-Abel and the council members and the community for having us this evening. And we really appreciate the city of Yucca Valley for recognizing that April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. At Children's Network, we're dedicated to promoting the well-being of children, families, and the community. We provide a lot of education and resources to our community, to professionals, to help prevent child abuse. And so for this month, we thank you that you're recognizing be Child Abuse Awareness Month. I wanted to share with you all a little bit of statistics regarding child abuse. Unfortunately, in San Bernardino County, in 2018, there were 31,335 referrals received, and that's in the whole county. The average number of referrals received per month are 2,635. And the children that are in care as of January of 2019, those are our most up-to-date stats, is 6,539. In 2018, the town of Yucca Valley received 354 referrals for child abuse. So something to think about, child abuse comes in many forms, including physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. We recognize the detrimental effects that child abuse and neglect have, not only on the victim's health and well-being, but on the health of our communities. Studies such as the Adverse Childhood Experiences, or the ACEs study, demonstrate that children who experience severe adversity and maltreatment are far more likely to experience negative health and behavioral health outcomes later on in life. Abuse and neglect not only leads to communities that are less healthy, but also less productive and less safe communities. Anyone can report child abuse very easily. If you suspect child abuse, it can be anonymously reported simply by calling 211. The caller will be connected immediately to the child abuse hotline, and each of us serve as the eyes and ears of our community, and it only takes a minute to call to help that child or family in need. At Children's Network, we try to provide a lot of information. We distribute materials on positive parenting. We also have blue ribbons and lapel pins and posters. We have magnets, resources. They're all free of charge. Cities and communities are encouraged to take advantage of these free resources and make them available to your residents. You could always call us at Children's Network at 909-383-9677. And so thank you so much again for recognizing that April is Child Abuse Awareness Month.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all the work that the Children's Network does. And one of the great things about giving out proclamations, you do educate not only us, the council, but those that are watching presently or online later on. So we appreciate that. And you made sure to mention that all it takes is a phone call if you have concerns, so that child could possibly be protected from any type of abuse, which we appreciate that. So whereas all children have the right to receive the care, protection, and guidance that family provides to be free from harm, and to have their physical, emotional, and educational needs met, and the town of Yucca Valley recognizes the importance of promoting community involvement in the prevention of child abuse. And as you mentioned, a multitude of those that are in San Bernardino County that were referred, around 32,000 that were referred to Children's and Family Services, whereas the town's prevention of child abuse requires rigorous solutions, energy, strength, determination, and commitment from concerned citizens in the entire community of Yucca Valley. The County of San Bernardino provides services and professionalism and professionals in the field of child abuse who are dedicated, compassionate, and skilled in the prevention of child abuse, whereas with a blue ribbon as an international symbol for child abuse prevention, the San Bernardino County Children's Network, in partnership with the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, the members agencies of the San Bernardino County's Children's Policy Council and Child Abuse Prevention Committee, are making and conducting significant outreach activities and events during the month of April to increase this awareness of child abuse. Therefore, as the mayor and the town council, the month of April 2021 be designated as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the town of Yucca Valley, and encourage citizens, organizations, schools, nonprofits, and businesses in the community to engage in activities and events that assist in the effort to prevent child abuse and provide for children physical, emotional, and developmental needs, presented on the 6th day of April. Thank you so very much again for sharing tonight and being with us.
Thank you.
We'll make sure this gets sent out as well. Well, thank you. That is two great presentations. I appreciate them for being and sharing their passion and the opportunities we have to help. We're going to move on to the approval of the agenda. I need a motion.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
Mayor Abel.
Yes. We'll move on to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are routine matters or formal documents covering previous town council instruction. Items are enacted by one motion and a second without separate discussion unless a member of the town council or town staff requests dialogue on a specific item at the beginning of the meeting. Requests for public comments on the consent agenda items should be filed with the town clerk. Could I have Curtis go ahead and read the consent agenda tonight, the titles?
Happy to, Mayor. On your consent agenda this evening, item 4, waive further reading of all ordinances. Number 5, Town Council regular meeting minutes from March 16th of 21. Item number 6, causing the updating assessment engineers report for street and drainage and lighting and landscape maintenance districts. It's resolution number 21. Item number 7, letter of opposition, ratifying a letter of opposition for the proposed release of a sexually violent predator into the Morongo Basin. Item 8, support of SB 619, implementation delay of SB 1383. That concludes the consent agenda, Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any formal requests to speak on the consent agenda?
No, we do not.
All right, is anyone in the room or online would like to speak on anything on the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to ask that we go ahead and pull item number 7. Are there any other discussions or items to be pulled?
No.
Okay, I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda items 4 through 8, excluding 7.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion, and Councilmember Rhodes second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Abel.
Yes, thank you. Item 7.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a letter of opposition, and this action, or the recommended action for you this evening, is to ratify the letter based on timing of information that needed to be submitted to the district attorney for hearing by the Superior Court judge. That needed to be sent out, and so that's already been done. Just a little bit of background. On March 12th, 2021, the Orange County Superior Court tentatively ordered Lawton Lottis Donald Roten, a sexually violent predator, to live at a residence in the city of 29 Palms after the court found extraordinary circumstances requiring placement outside of Orange County. In your staff report, there's a number of details going into Mr. Roten's background, so I'll spare you that detail, but suffice it to say that the town had a number of objections to the potential placement, primarily because Mr. Roten is not a resident here in the county of San Bernardino, nor were the acts that he committed in the county of San Bernardino. As you know, the town recently had its own sexually violent predator that was within county that was placed in the town of Yucca Valley. Just as an aside, Mr. Murillo recently passed, and so that's no longer the case here in the town of Yucca Valley. But we have had definitely our experience with a placement of this type. And so for a number of reasons, not limited to, but including the fact that Mr. Roten is in need of regular and consistent treatment and therapy. Oftentimes such services are not provided within the Morongo Basin, so he'd be required to leave the basin often. It's also the town's understanding that Mr. Roten does not have any friends or family in the area or other ties And so, quite frankly, a successful reentry into the community seems unlikely and possibly dangerous. Based on that, the letter concludes that the town of Yucca Valley and the town council takes its role of representing the town of Yucca Valley and the greater Morongo Basin community seriously, and stresses the safety risk of the proposed relocation of Mr. Roten to 29 Palms specifically, and the greater Morongo Basin, including the town of Yucca Valley, as a potential site as well. So that was the letter that was sent to Honorable Judge Wagner, and I know the captain may have some additional information on the judicial proceedings that are or scheduled to take place. Captain?
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. In addition to what our town manager said, I just want to add a few things for understanding purposes. First and foremost is the term sexually violent predator. That is a very separate distinction from what we may consider an individual who is a sexually violent predator. To actually receive that classification, a jury heard a separate case and made a ruling that he is a sexually violent predator. It's the most severe category we have, and we have very few of them in terms. It's not the standard sexual registrant that we think of when we're searching on Megan's Law and different things. This is a much higher category. This is a person who has done some very significant crimes and had to undergo some substantial treatment to, in this particular case, to combat his urges that likely exist and will always exist. Now, in addition to all that, our real opposition simply comes down to a matter of whose responsibility is it to provide services? What community? And in this particular case, this individual committed no crimes in San Bernardino County. His crimes in California, in fact, were committed in Orange County and in the county of Los Angeles back in the early 80s, in addition to several crimes in other states. So now he's been ordered to be released, and he has to live somewhere. That's not the point of anybody's objection to it. Our objection solely is having no responsibility to care for him in the future. The burden should not be shifted into a county, in this case, our county. San Bernardino would have to bear the responsibility of protecting the citizens in the worst case scenario and protecting Mr. Roden in the worst case scenario. Here in the Morongo Basin, we know the law enforcement services, our resources are limited. Our area is vast. And given the symbiotic nature of the way the Morongo Basin exists, something that happens in 29 Palms absolutely directly affects those of us living here in the town of Yucca Valley. Many of us recreate and shop and dine in 29 Palms. Not to mention the vast number of visitors that come to our area and unsuspectingly may not be aware of this individual living and working in our communities. And that is the case that, on the back of what Superintendent David Smith said, we have 3.5 million visitors to the park. That is only a small portion of the visitors to the Morongo Basin for all the other activities our communities provide. We're well over 4 million and much closer to 5 million based on some numbers I looked at today. These are visitors coming into the Morongo Basin that don't have any forewarning of a sexually violent predator now in the community. Further opposition to this one, if you remember, we visited this same exact scenario a year ago when Liberty Healthcare suggested to the Ventura Court the placement of a sexually violent predator in Joshua Tree. Well, we're just one other step away. It's the legal process. Same thing happened here. Liberty Healthcare proposed a location to the Orange County smack dab in the middle of a residential community in downtown 29 Palms. Thousands of families live within half mile, let alone many thousands of people live within 3 mile radius of the proposed location. That's of significant concern, not only for the safety of those residents, but the residents who visit and our law enforcement services. Because again, piggybacking on what I said about the symbiotic nature of the way we as residents live in the Morongo Basin, I can tell you directly how law enforcement works out here. We have adequate staffing for the majority of all the problems we have to deal with at any one location in the Morongo Basin. But when something terrible happens, we rely on mutual aid, whether it's here in Yucca Valley and calling resources from 29 Palms or our outlying unincorporated county area, but vice versa. If something happens in 29 Palms of significant nature, our immediate resources get deployed here from 29 Palms. And that's our concern. It's the drain on resources, having an individual like this into our community when we had no foundational responsibility for it. That's the basis for our objection. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor, the recommended action is just to ratify the letter that was previously sent, and we'd be happy to answer any other questions after public comment.
Right. Any public comment on this particular item that we pulled? Seeing none online or here in the room. My understanding is our Sheriff McMahon has also spoke in opposition to the placement, as well as county supervisors.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The sheriff himself, the district attorney, our supervisors, the congressman, the council from 29 Palms, as well as our senator in the area. And just, one final shout out. A lot of what happens when something is proposed of this nature is the district attorney's office. We have a dedicated team within his office that deals with sexually violent predators, primarily designed to take care of those San Bernardino County is responsible for. But as soon as we were notified, the district attorney put his entire staff to work, and they've been working closely with us to build an actual community profile that we can present to the Orange County District Attorney when the public hearing gets set, which at this point now, we got a late ruling the other day. They've moved the public hearing from April 16th to May 21st. So the district attorney will present the concerns from our community to the Orange County judge at that time.
Okay, and that information gathered will be helpful in future placements if they continue to go down this path.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right. Any other council questions or comments? All right, I'd like to move item number 7, the letter of opposition.
And I'll second the item.
And we have a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Abel.
Yes. All right, thank you. Now we get to move on to staff reports, item number 9.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Your recommendation for item number 9 is regarding the approval of an agreement for a comprehensive user fee study. The recommended action is that the Town Council approves an agreement for the comprehensive user fee study with Wildan Financial Services, establishing the fee agreement and setting forth the scope of services and fees to be charged for not to exceed amount of $24,470. Authorize the town manager to execute an agreement for services. And finally, to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 general fund budget by appropriating $25,000 from the general fund unassigned fund balance. As you know, the town utilizes its fee resolution to establish fees for cost recovery for those services that are provided to the public, as well as to allow the council and the staff to present fee structures that if there is a subsidy for a certain activity that both the council and the community know what that is, what that looks like, to assist you in making those recommended fee models. The overall goal of the study itself is to establish a schedule of fees that is objective, fair, and equitable. And then the end product that will come out of this study is that it will be a report including a user-friendly Excel-based model which town staff will retain, which can be easily updated in the future. The model will be used to calculate and analyze the components that make up the full cost of services provided by the town, the recommended level of cost recovery, including both indirect and direct costs, and most importantly, that the results and the recommendations that come out of these study will lead to recommendations that are clear, understandable, defensible, and easily implemented. The last time the town undertook this study was in 2004, so we're well due for a full-service study. We had talked a little bit at a staff level of whether we do this internally, but there are oftentimes changes in the way that a nexus is made between what you're doing and the fees that you're providing, and so we felt it was appropriate to bring in experts to do that and assist us with that. So the recommended action, again, is to engage Wildan to provide that service, as I've previously indicated. Conclude staff report. Be happy to answer questions after public comment.
Good. We'll bring it back to the public. Comment on a fee study. Last one done in 2004. All right, seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it to council for a motion or discussion.
I'd just like to make a comment that I did read the proposal that for the user fee study and look at the comparisons to other cities that they have worked with in the area and outside the area. A lot of it reflects directly with us, and originally they have a history working with our town. Wilman, I believe it is, Wilden. And so I'm very happy with the proposal at this time, and I'm excited to see that product formed and look forward to August, which I believe is the a finalized date for production. So I'd like to make the motion that we move forward.
Second?
We have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Abel.
Yes, thank you. Move on to item 10. Old Town Public Improvements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The recommended action before the council this evening is that the town council authorizes the town manager to enter into an agreement with RHA Landscape Architects, Inc. in the amount of $14,600 for preparation of conceptual plans for the Old Town, for the full Old Town area as outlined in the attached proposal. I think as the council is aware, there's been a number of efforts over the years in Old Town to generate activity, and the council has continued those efforts with your current strategic plan, which covers the years of 2020 through 2022. Specifically in that strategic plan, talk about strategy number 22, provide additional economic opportunities for Old Town development and the prior PFF property with an action plan or action plan steps of review the town's inherited RDA properties in the Old Town area and the prior PFF area to determine feasibility of development opportunity options, and review the town's inherited RDA properties in the Old Town area to determine feasibility of an open space event area. And that's the focus of the proposal and the recommended action that is before the town council this evening. Looking now at this aerial view, the properties, and let me turn around, maybe this way is a little bit better. This is Elk Trail, Highway 62, the public square discussion, again, a 30,000-foot elevation level discussion, being located at the northwest corner of Elk and Highway 62. The town now owns the former redevelopment agency properties that are located here, as well as this property here. So the discussion about the public square being focused at this point, the potential of public parking. And let me go on into a little bit more detail. This is a street view of that northwest intersection. Some of the concepts that are discussed: public square, of course, shade, especially for those summer months. Utilities are going to be needed, whether it's for the water fountain or if there's other activities that are taking place. Musicians, artist displays, you're going to need electricity for certain types of events. There could be business community events that take place there Talked a little bit about artists, musicians, parking to the north of Highway 62, potentially on both sides of Elk Trail, being south of Yucca Trail, and then the whole concept that some people have talked about being needed in Yucca Valley or desired in Yucca Valley, being a farmer's market or a street fair. That possibility would tie in at this location on Yucca Trail. This is Pioneer Town Road at this location, and then Yucca Trail coming across and intersecting with Elk Trail. The purpose of this first step in the process is to initiate the dialogue, is to initiate the visioning process, and to generate more dialogue and more ideas. The scope of services and the schedule of fees for those scope of services is presented on this slide, total of $14,600. But as these conversations take place before the town council, out in the community, through these types of meetings and other formats, it's very likely that additional work is going to be requested and desired as these concepts move into more solidified plans. You're going to need services that go beyond what this scope of service outlines today. Again, this is driven by the strategic plan and your strategies and action steps that are called out in that strategic plan. Again, the recommended action is that the council authorizes the town manager to enter into an agreement with RHA Landscape Architects in the amount of $14,600 for preparation of conceptual plans for the Old Town area as outlined in the attached proposal. That concludes the staff presentation. Be happy to answer questions following public comment.
All right, very interesting project. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak or ask questions on this particular project? All right. So seeing none, I know one of the identified improvements that people were asking for when we threw this out to the community and they were giving us feedback was a desire to see an improvement along the corridor, the Old Town and the corridor coming into the town of Yucca Valley. Is this type of company, do they do that type of work as well? Because we were talking about just some basic facelift and improvements and maybe weed abatement along the highway. Would this be a company that could do that if we expanded the services?
Potentially. This company could be a part of that process. From staff's perspective, and that has been a council goal or priority in terms of looking at enhancements along Highway 62, which is the front door for this community, and what type of action steps can be taken. At the staff level, we consider that somewhat of a separate project because it involves your existing highway as it exists today, Caltrans standards, the future widening of the highway. And then we've also tied that into our internal discussions about monument signage. So we do see staff coming back to the council in the near term, both from the public works engineering perspective on enhancing the appearance of Highway 62, tied in with some recommendations, potential recommendations coming out of the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Commission, and Sue's staff and community services in regards to public art and how those pieces fit together. So we do anticipate coming back before the council in the near term on those topics. Typically, this type of firm would be a subcontractor, civil engineering firm leading the effort in terms of highway enhancements.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just one comment. I wanted to thank the staff for the work on this. This has been a part of our strategic plan for quite a few years. The council has discussed this matter about use for public use, land that is in that area that could be developed for a benefit. And Shane had mentioned a few items that would go on there, same like a farmer's market, art, exhibits and things like that. So I think the vision for me is still the same, that we do include things like utilities, public health, restrooms and stuff like that, parking areas that were just mentioned quickly, and looking at our strategic plan and some of the things that were mentioned, it looks like it's fitting together very well to be a benefit to the entire community and the basin too. It could turn into something nice. So I want to thank you again for the work to get us to this point to finally move forward. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
All right, we have further discussion. Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure, I'm just excited as well to see this get off the ground. It's just a really good fit for supporting the businesses in Old Town and the organic growth that's taking place over there without being overbearing. It just seems like a good support, not just for the businesses, but for the art community and just the things that are going on in the community. I think it's a great start. So I want to ask, when would this phase be expected to be complete?
We would hope within probably 4 months that the conceptual renderings have been prepared. We've had at least one presentation to the town council, some feedback for revisions to those, and moving towards conclusion of that first phase.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rhodes?
I just want to say timing is everything. This has been a long time coming. I think a lot of people in Old Town have wanted this for a long time, and it just wasn't the right time. It was financially not probable to complete, but now timing is everything, and I'm really excited about this. This is really great, so thank you.
Yeah, and the timing also with COVID restrictions, perhaps we're seeing maybe with the vaccines and so forth, we're going to be able to offer some outdoor events and so forth. So that might be, by the time this is built, be used right away. So I think the businesses in Old Town, like you said, would benefit from that. Also drive traffic to those areas as far as people supporting those small independent shops and businesses. So we do have a motion. We're looking for a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll have roll call.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Abel.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on to department report number 11.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening you have a recommendation from your Planning Commission. And that recommendation this evening is that the Town Council directs the Planning Commission and staff to initiate a development code amendment for maximum approval time periods for conditional use permits and site plan review, and forward a recommendation to the Town Council for amendment. Just let the presentation catch up here. The Planning Commission studied and had public policy discussion on this topic at their meetings of April 28th and July 28th of 2020. The Commission discussed these issues, and at the conclusion of their discussions, the Commission has forwarded this request to the Town Council, which, if approved by the Council, authorizes the Commission to hold public hearings as a part of that overall process. The Planning Commission identified several projects that have been granted extensions covering more than 10 years since their original approvals, and the projects were not moving forward to construction. And you'll see shortly in the presentation, the Commission looked at data from other communities, and many of those other communities that were surveyed established a maximum number of time that extensions may be granted for a CUP or site plan review, and the Commission desired to establish a maximum number for those items. The language, which would differ from the current standard, and there is no maximum time period within the town's codes today. The code would be amended for both site plan review as well as conditional use permit, that there would be a maximum, and this is their recommendation to you, a maximum of 2 time extensions, and each one of those extensions could not exceed 2 years. Now, as part of the public hearing process for development code amendments, the Commission has to take public testimony. The Commission cannot arrive at any preconceived decision till they've taken that public testimony and close that public hearing. So the commission may come back even with a slightly modified recommendation than what you see here. And then that same process applies to the town council. The town council does not arrive at a decision prior to that public hearing, prior to accepting all of that public testimony, and then closing the public hearing before taking action. So even though you see these standards in front of you this evening, the commission may come back with an alternative recommendation, and the town council has full discretion to modify the planning commission's recommendation, to completely reject it, send it back to the commission for further study and discussion, or to completely outright reject it and make no amendments to the development code and those portions of the development code. So even if the commission, or even if the council directs the planning commission to proceed with this, the council is not tying its hands to what recommendation comes back to you, nor are you tying your hands to an ultimate decision that the council would like to make at that future date. This is the table that's included in your packet, and you can see the different number of communities that were surveyed. There are some that are similar to Yucca Valley that do not have a limit. There are others that do have limits. And it's kind of a broad-ranging number of years, both in terms of the initial approvals as well as how those time extensions play out over time. The recommended action this evening is again that the council directs the planning commission and staff to initiate the development code amendment for maximum approval time periods for conditional use permits and site plan reviews, and for the commission to forward a recommendation to the town council for the amendment. That concludes the staff presentation. Be happy to answer questions following public comment.
Thank you. Public comment on this particular item, item number 11. All right. Having none, we'll bring it back. I see that one of the discussions was the fee for extensions and so forth. Do we know what that fee is, or that?
The fee for a time extension is 50% of the original application fee. And those types of land use applications are based upon staff time. So if it's a simple project, it's very likely they're getting a refund. If it's a larger project, it may be more costs on top of that. And then I think, as you heard on the previous item this evening, those fees will be updated with the town's update to the comprehensive fee structure.
And a lot of times it doesn't make sense to keep extending these out, because if they did environmental reports, if they did a lot of other things, by the time they do go forward with it, they have to go back and redo those as well.
There are certain environmental studies that do have to be are required to be updated. So there can definitely be some confusion that's created for applicants, especially if they're not highly seasoned in the process. In terms of an overall picture, the staff went back and looked at the last 10 or 11 years in terms of what projects at a broad level moved forward, what projects did not move forward. I don't know that it's a good sample period because it's post-Great Recession, and we're still coming out of that Great Recession, so I just throw in that one caveat. But for conditional use permits, approximately 20% have not moved forward, and that's between 2010 and 2021. And for site plan reviews, approximately 13% have not moved forward. So that just kind of gives an overview of those, at least at a number level or percentage level, those that do move forward to successful completion versus those that do not. And then final comment, again, the council can adjust the numbers as they so choose if you provide direction today to proceed forward, both in terms of the initial approval period, which is at 3 years. That can be modified by the town council ultimately, as well as the number of extensions and the number of years.
And with this enacting a limitation, would that save some staff time in dealing with these? They can just be put away and not have to be worried about? Does it take up a lot of staff time by having all these extensions come up?
It takes up a little bit of staff time. I think the primary issue is how long is that approval valid for, and then you take the ones that have been out there for 10 years, then pretty soon you have to start questioning, is there really even a market for this type of project? If it's been there, sitting there for 10 years, is this really a good thing, a good policy, public policy to have in place? If they haven't been able, and for example, the recommendation that's before the council this evening, if it stays the same, a 7-year window of initial approval plus the two-year time periods, if a project can't be delivered in that 7 years, is it really necessary to keep it alive?
Right. And the thing that comes to my mind, I know we were sort of excited about the possibility of an equestrian hospital type facility being built. I have not seen that yet move forward, so they probably have requested extensions. Does it discourage a developer like that to have a limit, or does this push them forward to let's get this done? Or do they just have to start over?
From staff's perspective, when you've reached that 7-year timeline, if a project is not financially feasible,
Yeah.
I think the elimination of moving forward from that point, I don't think really has an effect on the project.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to discourage
Understood.
great projects, but also I think the Planning Commission has their hand on the pulse there, that they know that there needs to be a certain limitation for these extensions. So I appreciate them bringing this forward, or your staff bringing it forward. Any questions from the council? I'd like to move the item that we would go ahead and, I like the proposed numbers that the Planning Commission threw out, the 7-year total time limit with the two-year extensions. And you said it's going to come back for further. So is this a receive and file, or do we need to make a motion?
A motion, second, and a vote is appropriate,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
I'll move the item,
I'll second.
and we have Councilmember Dennison seconded.
Council members Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
Mayor Abel.
Yes. And our last department report, number 12, Public Health and Welfare Update, COVID-19.
Thank you, Mayor. I look forward to getting this item off of my recurring list to the community, to the council, but we're not quite ready to do that yet. But we're getting closer, and I think you'll see that tonight. So thank you for your patience as we go through these things. Highlighted there is the summary. Moving into the orange tier is likely in the upcoming weeks. You'll remember that we went from purple to red, now looking at orange. I missed the county's update this morning, but from what we're reading, it looks like it may be as soon as next week. So that's good news, and that provides additional flexibility as we go forward. As of today, that regional stay-at-home order obviously was lifted. We're back in the color-coded tier system, and we are in the red tier substantial, but you'll see in the graphs that the numbers are improving rapidly, for sure. So that's just the high-level color framework that the state has put out, starting at the top where we were at, and then second there, the red is substantial. That's where we're at. A little bit interesting on some of the numbers on the local level, and I'll talk about those in a minute. Recent actions that you may have heard at the state level that have been issued. The state is meeting weekly and making announcements. Typically, they meet on Mondays, make their decisions, and then the downgrades, if you will, for the various counties are issued on Tuesday. So there were a number that came out today. So we would anticipate that the earliest the county would move would be next Tuesday. They've also issued additional guidance related to school sports, public gatherings, sporting events. As if you've caught any of the opening games for the Major League season, you'll see people now at those venues, so that's good to see. Indoor activities, indoor concerts, and other public events also are moving forward as authorized by the state. I've decided to leave in some of the pictures so you can see the comparisons as we've gone through. So this was countywide hospital census as of December 15th, when we were approaching that significant peak into January. You can see us coming down that peak in February on hospitalizations, and then this is where we're at today. So come down all the way down and almost where we were about a year ago. So good news there for sure on hospitalizations. Same level of charts there for county statistics. This is your positivity rate in healthy places, daily new cases, and I don't think the ICU bed graph carries over in the next next couple of graphs. But you'll see here that we were significantly into the purple in December. February started to come down, and then now you're through red, almost into orange, and then even approaching yellow. So all of those are terrific news for the county. Town, September 14th, you can see the number of cases there on the right that were in our area. December jumped up quite a bit. And then February started to come back down again. And as of today, down back to 12. So this is a little bit higher. This is one of the slides I was referring to earlier. These numbers in some of our neighboring areas, whether it's Morongo, Joshua Tree, or 29, are all below 10. They're in the low single digits. And so I was a little bit surprised to see us at 12, but definitely an improvement from where we were at. Yucca Valley COVID testing still remains an option at the 29 Palms Community Center as well as the Healthcare Center, Morongo Basin Community Healthcare Center there. The county is encouraging folks to continue to get tested. It's hard to get tested when the numbers aren't high, and it's I think more folks are interested in vaccinations. That's understandable, but those metrics that move you from one tier to another are still based on testing, and they have some ways that they can accommodate for lower levels of tests, but the more testing there is, the faster we're able to move it. Vaccination data, this was the vaccination distribution phase. In your last update, we were just approaching phase 1B, and it was still relatively limited. As of today, the county had this on their website, so vaccinating now all people 16 and older. That wasn't updated yet as of today on the state website, but it looks like that they're moving in that direction. Supplies have increased, the infrastructure for vaccinations have increased, and so we're able to see that opening up across the county. For your town staff employees as emergency workers, they were eligible about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now, to be able to get their first shots. So those that were interested to do so did have that opportunity out at CMC. Vaccination data is your total amounts that were presented to you at your last update in February. And total doses there in the upper left-hand corner, second doses. And so then this is where we're at today, quite a bit more for sure. So the two numbers there, you can't see it at the bottom, but county numbers are the ones that are provided by County Department of Public Health. So it's just under 500,000 that are partially vaccinated. And then the number of doses that have been provided by San Bernardino County providers, but not directly by the county. They're at the bottom left corner there of 351,000. I wanted to talk just a minute about where we're at for your town services and our conversations with staff where we've been at. As you know, Town Hall has opened up already, and we are servicing our regular operating hours at Town Hall. Community services, tentatively looking at April 19th, as well as the animal shelter and community development. That date is aligned with the ability for staff that was interested in getting the vaccine. They were able to do so. They will have had the opportunity to have their second shot at least about 4 or 5 days prior to this April 19th or April 20th timeframe. And then finally, the High Desert Nature Museum is currently open for reservation. That's indoor facility, and it's a museum. It's specifically identified by state rules on the reopening and the capacity limits there. Again, folks should still take caution and stay up to date on any of the CDC guidelines as they may change from time to time. County website's a great place to go if you're interested in either testing or vaccination information. So we direct people to that, and we have those links on our website as well. Mayor and council, that concludes staff update. Be happy to answer questions after public comment.
We'll open up to public comment. No one online? All right, and no one in the room. Thank you for the presentation. Future agenda items. Any council member with an item for a future discussion or topics? All right, we'll move on to public comment. The town takes this time to consider your comments on items of concern which are not on the agenda. When you're called to speak, please state your name and the community of residence. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Inappropriate behavior or disruptions that disturb or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting will result in the forfeiture of your public comment privileges. The town council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not on the printed agenda. So is there anyone here tonight who would like to speak to the council on any item not on the agenda tonight? All right, anyone online? All right, it was nice to see one of our Parks and Recreation commissioners there. Ed, thank you for joining us. Anyone else here tonight would like to speak? Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back to staff reports now. Staff reports and comments.
Thank you. Captain or Lieutenant, either of you have any updates for us this evening? All right, thank you. Deborah or Armando? All right. Shane, you have something for us today?
So this week, bids will be received for Prop 68 project management services. So hopefully we have a number of proposals that come in and we'll be moving that process forward. I want to recognize Jared Jerome this evening. Jared is sitting in the back. He is your associate planner. Jared wrote the report for the Development Code Amendment, did the research, presented to the Planning Commission. What I didn't tell him I was going to say is that he'll be presenting the public hearing item to the town council at that future date. So fortunately, you can't see the facial expression underneath the mask this evening. So I would like to ask Derek Cooper if he would step up to the microphone. It's always fun to welcome new employees to the organization, but it's never fun to say goodbye at all. Derek and his family have made the decision to move back to the East Coast after being out here, desert residents, and hanging out with us for about 3 years. Derek is a new father of about 4 months ago, 3 to 4 months ago.
Yes, sir.
And both he and his wife's family are back on the East Coast, so Derek is going to be leaving us, unfortunately. So I just wanted to recognize Derek for his service to the community and to thank him and give him the opportunity to say any words. And I didn't forewarn him about this tonight, so he probably will be giving me funny looks tonight. But Derek, is there anything you'd like to say this evening to the council?
Well, definitely thank you guys for the last 3 years. It's been wonderful. I'm definitely going to miss pretty much all of you guys. But yes, going back home, just letting my child see her grandparents. It's something I didn't want her to miss out on. So beyond that, just a pleasure. And yeah, I almost wasn't here. So glad this got to work out. I'm only really just realizing this is my last town council with you guys. So bittersweet, but love you guys, and we'll definitely miss all of you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on being a father. That's nothing changes your life more than having a child. So congratulations, and I think the world of you, and I appreciate all the work you've done for us, and always the great attitude that you brought with your work ethic. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, just a couple of final comments. As I gave that quick update on COVID, just wanted to say thank you to the public for their patience as we've gone through the last year of being open, being closed, having to shut down, having to do things remotely. it's been a different experience, not only for town staff, but also for our residents, and so we are grateful for their patience as we work through that issue. I think most of you know that our town clerk was in a vehicle accident, so keep her in your thoughts and prayers. She's doing pretty good, but she will be out of the office for a couple of weeks, so appreciate that. And then, Derek, thank you for everything you've done for the organization. We do appreciate that. I didn't realize that the baby's grandparents are back east, and so as a father, I know the value of having grandparents around, so I think that's a great decision and something that you won't regret at all. So thank you. That's it, Mayor. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to council member comments. Councilmember Dennison.
Thank you, Mayor. Derek, thank you very much for your service. You helped move us over the last 3 years into a lot of changes, especially with technology, and it's appreciated. It's not always an easy road, as we all know, with that kind of product, but you always made it work and came up with new ideas and definitely made a difference that will last us for years around here. I got to meet you and your wife about 3 years ago at a holiday event, and I remember that clearly. And I'm very happy to hear that you're going to keep your family close together. That's very important. So best to you in your future and with your new family. So fantastic. I just want to say thank you. The presentations tonight were really valuable to me, and it's nice to see once again someone like David Smith, our park superintendent, being able to come out. Prior to COVID, he was very regular in the community and discussing the things that are important to us about our community and our park. He looks at them, both of them the same, and so it was nice to get an update from him. And the two presentations on Donate Life Month, that's very important. I've had the little dot on my license for many years, and I think it is something that can make a difference in many people's lives. And the San Bernardino County Children's Network, that is a service that is of high value in our community and throughout the whole county, and just the idea of it throughout our whole country. So that's all I really have to say. But I do remember, thank you, Jared. I was reading through our minutes in quite detail and noticed that you facilitated the briefings in the agendas or the meetings of April 2020, which directly talks about what we did today. And you were real brief and putting it all together, and so I appreciate your work over there and with the commission.
Thank you. Councilmember Drodes.
Well, first, Derek, it's been a pleasure working with you, and I wish all the best for you and your family. And maybe you'll take a little of Yucca Valley with you there, a little of our spirit. But also the skills, you probably learned a lot of skills while especially changing over to the new system we have here. So hopefully that helps you in your future, but you will be missed, so just so you know that. And I want to mention now that spring is here, the trees around my yard are blooming, hummingbirds are flying around, roadrunners are running all over, and it's a pretty cool time of year. So now's the time that we can all enjoy. COVID seems to be settling down. And I want to mention that Yucca Bowl is open and is fully rejuvenated, fully remodeled. They have flat screen TVs instead of the tube TVs like they used to have just 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And they have new flooring, the bar is totally remodeled, and they have a fully stocked snack bar. So if you ever feel like bowling on a weekend, you can go to the Yucca Bowl, as long as, there's not too many people in there because of COVID. And so I encourage everyone to do that, and thank you. This was a very rewarding meeting. I think it's incredible, especially with the Old Town project. I think that's really great. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Schooler.
Yeah, I'm excited about the projects coming up at the National Park and Black Rock Campground. I think that's going to be great, as well as the Old Town project. I think that's just going to be a really good fit for this community. Thank you for the presentations from the groups that did that. And best wishes, Derek. We're going to miss you here. It's always been good to rely on you here and your expertise, and you've been very professional, and it looks like we're in good hands. This meeting went pretty smoothly, so just good luck to you.
All right, thank you. Our next regular meeting for the town council will be held on Tuesday, April 20th at 6 o'clock, right here at the Yucca Valley Community Center Yucca Room. I'd like to close tonight's meeting wishing our town clerk, Leslie, a quick and speedy recovery. That is it. Have a good evening.